Okay, we got a recent announcement that Social Security has posted a 2% increase for the disabled and for retired people. Every year there is a COLA evaluation. It's a different COLA formula than most formulas, and it's a little bit more helpful to people, particularly the elderly. I remember during the Reagan era that the biggest cause of people becoming no longer impoverished were the simple cost of living increases in Social Security. So this is a big deal. The response is that every year I get Medicare increases, and basically they take the cost of living. Medicare increases are a concern, and it's even a greater concern right now because many doctors are starting to say we can't take Medicare patients anymore. The government doesn't give us enough money to make a living. And this is certainly true in big cities. And that is a concern of mine that no one seems to be addressing. I think every doctor should be taking Medicare, and they should want to take Medicare. To have doctors say they can't afford to take Medicare because they get a very low amount of money is really a concern. For those who don't know or understand how Medicare works, the government will pay 80% of the cost of the exam as they think it should be charged. So if you're in a big city where expenses are high and your doctor is charging you $250 for an office visit, Medicare may say, well, that office visit really is worth $100, and they'll only pay 80% of that. So they'll pay $80. So you pay $250 and the government is paying $80. That's the way it works. I mean, it's really unfair. They pay 80% of that, so they pay him $80. So when the doctor takes Medicare assignments, he's going to get $80 for a visit that he thinks is worth $250. I am worried that there are so many doctors now who don't take Medicare because the amount of money that they get is no longer reasonable. It's unfair to them. It may be fair in a rural country northern in North Dakota where you see a GP, but in a big city you're seeing lots of specialists and they charge a lot of money. They have spent 4 years in college, 3 years in medical school, maybe 4 years in medical school, I guess, and 3 years in residency and then fellowships. I mean, there are $600,000 in debt when they leave their education. And they're at that time 30 years old and they want to have families and children. The expenses are enormous. So I'm pretty understanding about doctors and that they should be able to charge a reasonable fee. I also don't want Medicare rates to go up through the roof. So there should be a little bit more for the doctors, particularly in big city areas, and we should try to figure out some problem about this. I mean, Medicare is, unlike Social Security, not capped. Social Security is capped. You only pay up to about $110,000. So the very wealthy pay much, much less Social Security proportionally than you do. You will pay the FICA tax all the way up to about $110,000 this year. But if you make $200,000, you only pay to 110, and then you don't pay anymore. Medicare, you pay the same percentage all the way through, no matter how much you make. So one of the suggestions I've always had is let's take the cap off Medicare. Let's take the cap off Social Security. Let everybody who has wages pay their fair share. It's a flat tax, which means it's the same rate for everybody. So let's pay a flat tax for everybody the way Medicare has a flat tax. Makes more sense. It will solve the Social Security budget in 5 minutes. If the people who are making $5 million a year paid their FICA taxes up to $5 million, it would solve the Social Security debt very, very quickly, and there'd be no need to be concerned about it. It may be we have to raise the Medicare rate. That's possible if medical expenses go up. That may be so. There are lots of things that can be done on Medicare that Congress has stopped. I mean, for example, there are Social Security, Medicare can't negotiate for drugs. Why is that? Well, because the lobbyists for the drug companies own Congress, and they make these special rules, which aren't for you, they're for them. It makes their profits more. So Medicare has to pay much higher rates than they should have to pay. So anyway, there are lots of things like this. I appreciate all the people who write it, particularly, I have a note here from Sheila Davis saying how long it takes and that living expenses are going up. That's true. I wish I knew what to do about it. And I wish, by the way, I could do something about the speed. It's ridiculous how long these cases take. But the government has reduced the staff of Social Security each year. So every year there are more cases and less people. It makes no sense. Social Security is a fairly efficient agency when you study how much it costs to process cases. It costs a lot less than, say, a private insurance company does. So they are fairly efficient with what they have, but there's no reason they can't get a raise so that they can hire enough people to make this process quicker. When I started out, it would take about 90 days for the initial application, about another 90 days for your reconsideration, another 90 days to get a hearing, and a month or so to get a decision. So you'd have a case that would go through in about a year. Now it takes 6 months, 7 months for the initial stage to be processed. In many states, there is no reconsideration, though there have been proposals to bring it back, not because it's valuable, but because it adds another step so that the hearing stages aren't so overwhelmed. It slows up the process, so it gives more time for the hearing judges to get their cases done. That's the only purpose that they want to bring it back. It's taking, in Brooklyn, I was told it's 18 months right now to get a hearing. In parts of the country, it's 2 years. It used to be less than that to get the entire process done. Judges have no quotas, and they don't have enough staff, and there probably aren't enough of them. It's unclear why. Social Security budget is controlled by Congress. They can appropriate enough money to make things fast, but they don't. And the only way to get them is to lean on them and start writing letters and particularly calling. Get them to do something. This is not a tax issue. The money's appropriated out of the Social Security budget. So for those, again, who are concerned about the increase, I think the increase is great. 2.8 is better than it's been for a while, but again, these are things that aren't lobbied. They're determined by professionals. I wish they would spend a little bit more money on the Social Security program. It deserves it.